She didn't ask. She didn't say, "Are you free?" She said, "You have to babysit every weekend." Like my time belonged to her. Like not having kids meant I didn't have a life. For 3 months, I gave her 130 hours of free childcare. No payment, no thanks. Just family helps family. So I finally did the math. And starting Friday, I started charging $50 an hour. That's when everything exploded. You have to babysit every weekend. I need a break. That's the exact wording. Not can you, not are you free, not even please, have to. The text came in on a Thursday night at 9:47 p.m., which is apparently the time my cousin Emily does her planning. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Because this wasn't new. It just finally dropped the mask. 3 years ago, I offered to watch her kids once. Once. She had just had her second baby. She was exhausted. Her husband was working long hours. I showed up with takeout, cleaned bottles, rocked the baby so she could shower. She cried and hugged me. "You're a lifesaver," she said. And I believed her. The second time, she asked. The third time, she assumed. By the 10th time, it was just, "So Saturday at 10?" Somehow, without a meeting, without a discussion, without consent, I had become weekend aunt. I don't have kids. I work remotely, flexible schedule, which, in Emily's world, translates to free. The first time she left the kids longer than we agreed on, I brushed it off. She said she'd be back by 6 p.m. She came back at 10:30. No apology, just, "You're a saint." I needed that. I had canceled dinner with friends that night. The second time, she dropped them off 30 minutes early. The third time, she didn't ask at all. She texted, "We're 5 minutes away." I was in pajamas. I remember standing in my living room staring at my phone, heart racing in a way that felt irrational. Because technically, she's family. And technically, I wasn't doing anything important. And that's how it starts. Not with chains, with small justifications. You're not busy. They're struggling. You're good with kids. It's only a few hours. Then a few hours becomes every Saturday. Then Saturday becomes Saturday and Sunday. Then Sunday becomes, "Can you keep them overnight? We might stay out late." I didn't notice the shift until I realized I hadn't had a weekend to myself in 2 months. 2 months. Every Friday, she'd text, "Same time tomorrow?" Like we were employees confirming a shift. One weekend, I told her I had plans. She replied, "You don't have kids. You can reschedule." That sentence sat in my chest like a stone. You don't have kids, as if that makes my time less real. As if my life is a placeholder until motherhood validates it. I still babysat that weekend, because she added, "Family helps family." That phrase is magic in our family. It ends arguments. It overrides boundaries. It makes you the villain if you hesitate. And I didn't want to be the villain. Then came the wedding I missed. One of my closest friends got married on a Sunday. Emily asked weeks earlier if I could keep the kids that weekend because they had a rare date night opportunity. I said no. I told her about the wedding. She said, "It's just one day. We never get time alone." I held firm. For once. Then Saturday night she called me crying. The baby had a fever. The older one was acting out. Her husband was stressed. She was at her breaking point. I drove over. Of course I did. I stayed until 1 a.m. I missed the rehearsal dinner. The next day, exhausted, I overslept, missed the ceremony, made it to the reception halfway through. Emily never mentioned it again, not once. And I never brought it up, because that's the thing about resentment. If you don't say it out loud, it calcifies. And mine had started to harden. Which brings us back to the text. "You have to babysit every weekend. I need a break." Have to. I typed slowly. Me. I can't commit to every weekend. 3 dots appeared instantly. Emily. What do you mean you can't? Me. I have my own plans sometimes. Emily. Like what? That question. Like what? As if I needed justification. As if I needed to submit a proposal to decline unpaid labor. Me. My life. She didn't respond for a full minute. Then, Emily. Must be nice to have that much free time. There it was. The subtle insult. Because in her mind, if I'm not a mother, I'm idle. If I'm idle, I'm available. If I'm available, I'm obligated. I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger, clarity. I opened my calendar. I counted. Last 3 months. 11 full Saturdays. 7 Sundays. 2 overnights. That's roughly 130 hours. Unpaid. At even a modest babysitting rate of $20/hour, that's $2,600. At a professional rate? More. And I wasn't a professional. I was family, which apparently meant free. Another text came in. Emily, you know how hard this is for me. I do. Motherhood is hard, but that doesn't make me your staffing solution. Then she sent the message that finally snapped something clean inside me. Emily, you don't even understand because you don't have kids. The least you can do is help. The least you can do. I stared at those words for a long time, because I had been doing the most, and it still wasn't enough. I set my phone down, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and for the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt tired of being convenient, tired of being the backup plan, tired of being the invisible labor. My phone buzzed again. Emily, so Friday at 6? Not even waiting for an answer. Already scheduling, already assuming. And that's when I realized something important. This wasn't about needing help. This was about access. Access to my time. Access to my availability. Access to the part of me that never says no. But that part was done. I didn't answer her Friday at 6 message. Not immediately. I wanted to sit with the discomfort instead of smothering it with compliance. By Friday afternoon, she still hadn't acknowledged that I hadn't confirmed. At 5:12 p.m., my phone buzzed. Emily, leaving in 10. I stared at it. No question mark. No, are you good? Just logistics. My heart started pounding, not because I was afraid of the kids, because I was about to do something unfamiliar. Hold the line. I typed back. Me. I didn't agree to tonight. 3 dots. Gone. 3 dots again. Emily. Are you serious right now? Me. Yes. Emily. We're already in the car. Of course they were. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was pressure by proximity. If she arrived, I'd fold. Because what kind of monster turns away children at the door? She knew that. She had always known that. Me. I didn't confirm. I have plans. She called immediately. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. What plans? She demanded before I could speak. Plans? I said calmly. You're home. You don't know that. I just drove past your street. My stomach dropped. You drove past my house? I needed to make sure you weren't lying. There it was. Control. I took a breath. You can't just show up. Family doesn't need an appointment. Yes, they do. She laughed, sharp and humorless. You've changed. No, I said. I stopped auto-accepting. She was quiet for a second. Then her voice shifted into something colder. You think you're too good for us now? That word. Us. As if this were a class divide, as if autonomy equals arrogance. I think my time isn't automatically available, I replied. You don't even have kids, she snapped. What are you doing that's so important? And there it was again. The hierarchy, motherhood at the top, everyone else, optional. I don't need to justify how I spend my weekend, I said. Silence. Then she lowered her voice. We're exhausted. I know. You get to sleep in whenever you want. I work all week. So do we. And I'm not asking you to watch my non-existent children, I replied. That landed. Her breath hitched. You're being selfish. Selfish is assuming I'm your free childcare. The line went quiet. Then she said something that chilled me. Fine. If you won't help, don't expect help when you need it. There it was. Conditional family. Support is leverage. I've never asked you for help, I said. You will. No, I replied calmly. I won't. She hung up. I stood in my living room, shaking slightly. Not because I regretted it, because I realized how deeply this pattern had embedded itself. My phone buzzed again. Not from her. From my aunt. Aunt Linda. Emily says you refused to watch the kids and they were already on the way? There it was. Triangulation, narrative control. I didn't answer immediately. Then another message. Aunt Linda. She's overwhelmed. You don't understand how hard it is. I typed carefully. Me. I've watched them almost every weekend for 3 months. No response, because that part hadn't been included in Emily's version. 10 minutes later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. It was her husband. "We're outside," he said flatly. My chest tightened. "You need to leave," I said. "We're not driving back. You should have confirmed before leaving." "You're really doing this?" "Yes." Silence. Then he muttered something I couldn't fully hear and hung up. I walked to the window. Their car was parked across the street. The kids were in the back seat, and I felt something split inside me. Because I love those kids. This wasn't about them. This was about their parents using them as leverage. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then their car drove away. My hands were trembling, but I didn't move. Because if I moved now, if I chased, if I apologized, it would never stop. That night, the group family chat exploded. Emily: "Apparently we can't rely on some people anymore." Sister: "What happened?" Emily: "She decided she has plans. Quotation marks included. I typed once, deleted, typed again, deleted. Then I sent something simple." Me: "I have babysat 130 plus hours in the last 3 months. I am not available every weekend." Silence. Then my cousin's reply. Emily: "So now you're keeping score?" "Yes, I am." "Because you were. You just called it family." That's when the idea came to me, not out of spite, out of math. 130 hours. If my time is optional to you, let's quantify it. If you think it's free, let's assign value. Not because I wanted money, because I wanted clarity, and clarity sometimes needs numbers. The next morning, she texted me privately. "Emily, so what? You're quitting?" I stared at the word quitting, as if I'd been hired, as if I'd signed a contract, as if I'd been paid. And that's when it crystallized. She didn't see me as help, she saw me as staff, unpaid staff, with emotional blackmail benefits. So I opened my calculator. Professional weekend babysitting rates in our area ranged from $25 to $40 per hour. Overnight? More. Emergency? More. Last minute? Definitely more. And something inside me that had been polite for years finally sat down and said, "Fine, if I'm staff, I'll invoice." I didn't overthink the number. I didn't calculate down to fairness. I calculated up to deterrence, $50 an hour. Not because that's what I wanted, because that's what would end the assumption. Friday morning, before she could text first, I sent it. Me: "Starting this weekend, if you need childcare, my rate is $50/hour. Minimum 4 hours. Payment up front. Let me know by Wednesday if you'd like to book." I stared at the message for a full 30 seconds before pressing send. Then I did. The reply came in under a minute. Emily: "Are you insane?" I didn't answer. Another message. Emily: "You're charging family?" Me: "I'm valuing my time." 3 dots gone. Then they reappeared. Emily: "You don't need money." That one made me laugh. It wasn't about need, it was about respect. Me: "Correct, I don't need money. That's why $50/hour is the rate." Silence. Then the phone rang. I answered on speaker and set it down on the table so I wouldn't pace. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she snapped immediately. "Nothing," I said calmly. "You asked for every weekend, that's a job." "It's not a job. It's family." "If it's optional, it's family. If it's mandatory, it's employment." She went quiet for half a second. Then she laughed in disbelief. "You're actually serious?" "Yes." "You're punishing me." "No, I'm creating a boundary." "You don't even have kids," she said again, like that phrase unlocked a secret door. "And you do," I replied, "which means childcare is your responsibility." She inhaled sharply. "After everything I've done for you." There it was, the retroactive invoice. "What have you done for me?" I asked calmly. Silence. Because there wasn't a list. There were birthday parties and occasional favors, sure, but nothing that equaled 130 plus unpaid hours. "You're unbelievable," she whispered. "No," I said. "I'm unavailable." That broke her composure completely. "You think you're better than me because you have free time? Because you sleep in? Because you don't know what real exhaustion is?" Her voice cracked on that last word, and for a moment I felt it. The genuine exhaustion, the overwhelm, the resentment. But exhaustion doesn't entitle you to someone else's life. "I'm not better than you," I said quietly. "I'm separate from you." She didn't respond. Then, "You're not part of this family anymore?" There it was, the nuclear option, disowning over childcare. I exhaled slowly. If my membership requires unpaid labor, then you're right. She hung up. Within minutes, the group chat lit up again. Emily. She's charging me $50/hour to see her own cousins. Cousins. Not my children. Not my responsibility. My aunt jumped in immediately. Aunt Linda. That's extreme. I typed once, deleted, typed again, then sent. Me. I've provided 130+ hours of unpaid childcare in 3 months. I'm not available every weekend. If childcare is mandatory, it has a rate. The chat went quiet. Then my cousin's husband entered for the first time ever. Mark, you're greedy. I smiled at that. Greedy. For wanting my weekends, for valuing my time, for not working for free. Me. No, I'm busy. That was it. No explanation, no defense, busy. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. Emily, we're outside. My stomach dropped. Again, I went to the window. They were there. Kids in the back seat. Again. This time without even pretending to coordinate. I stepped outside before they could knock. She got out of the car, eyes blazing. You're not serious about this, she said. I am. You're really going to leave us stranded? You chose to drive here. I thought you'd calm down. I did, I said. She scoffed. You wouldn't dare turn away your own family? I held her gaze. Watch me. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she opened the back door like she was about to start unloading backpacks. If you leave them here without my agreement, I said calmly, I will call the police for child abandonment. Her head snapped toward me. You wouldn't. I would. The silence between us was heavy. Her husband stepped out now, clearly uncomfortable. Let's just go, he muttered. She looked at him like he'd betrayed her. You're siding with her? I'm siding with reality, he said quietly. She stared at me for another long moment, and I saw it. Not hatred. Shock. Because she genuinely believed I would fold. She had always folded me before. You've changed, she whispered. No, I said. I stopped volunteering. She slammed the car door and got back in. They drove off, and that was it. No police needed. No screaming scene. Just a car pulling away without depositing children on my doorstep. My phone buzzed once more that night. Emily, don't ever expect anything from me again. I stared at the message, then typed, me. I never did. And I blocked her. Blocking her felt anticlimactic. There was no dramatic soundtrack, no cinematic silence, just the small gray notification. You will no longer receive messages from this contact. Administrative, clean, and strangely peaceful. The fallout came anyway. My aunt called first. I think this has gone too far, she said carefully. Which part? I asked. The charging. The abandoning kids at my door? She hesitated. She wouldn't have actually left them. She already tried twice. Silence. She's overwhelmed, my aunt said. So am I. But you don't have children. There it is again. That phrase, like motherhood is a license to extract. I have a life, I said. That's enough. My aunt sighed. You're dividing the family. No, I said calmly. I'm dividing labor. She didn't have a response for that. The next few weeks were quiet in a way that felt unnatural. No Friday texts, no 5 minutes away, no guilt bombs. The first Saturday I woke up without my phone buzzing felt almost wrong, like I was missing something. I wasn't. I went for coffee alone, I read in a park, I took a yoga class. Simple things, but they felt reclaimed. 2 months later, I ran into Emily at a grocery store. She froze when she saw me. Her cart was piled high with snacks and diapers. She looked tired, not theatrically tired, actually tired. For a split second, I almost felt the old reflex, the urge to say, if you ever need help, but that reflex had learned something. Need doesn't cancel consent. She walked toward me. So this is how it is now? She asked. Yes. You really blocked me. Yes. You embarrassed me. No, I said calmly. You embarrassed yourself. She shifted her weight. You know I had to hire someone, right? I assumed. Do you know how much that costs? Yes. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. $50 an hour, I added quietly. Her face went red. You're unbelievable. No, I said, I'm consistent. She scoffed. You used to care. I still care about the kids. but not about me. I care about myself too. That's the part she never understood. Caring about yourself isn't cruelty, it's maintenance. She looked like she wanted to argue more. Then she didn't. Because what do you say to someone who refuses to play the script anymore? She walked away. And that was the last real conversation we had. The family split in predictable ways. Some said I was harsh. Some said I was justified. Most quietly stopped asking me for favors, which, ironically, was the goal. 6 months later, my aunt called again. Emily says she misses you. I paused. Does she miss me? I asked. Or the free weekends? Silence. That's unfair, she said softly. No, I replied, it's accurate. No contact isn't explosive, it's slow. It's the gradual realization that you're not obligated to participate in your own exploitation. Do I miss the kids? Sometimes. But I don't miss the assumption. I don't miss the pressure. I don't miss being told my life is less important because it looks quieter. The real shift wasn't the $50/hour. It wasn't the blocked number. It was the moment I realized something simple. If someone believes your time is free, they don't value you. And if they only value you when you're useful, they don't value you at all. She demanded every weekend because we're family. I started charging because I'm not staff. She thought I'd cave. Instead, she lost access. And that was the last time anyone in my family tried to schedule my life without asking. If someone thinks your time is free, they don't value you. And if the only reason they want you around is convenience, that's not family, that's staffing. So tell me, would you have kept babysitting for free? Or would you have sent the invoice too?